What's up, YouTube? I'm Mike, and today I'm back with part 7 now of what it's really like to be homeless. Except this time, I'm actually about to be homeless. So when I left you last time, my buddy Steve had been set up running his operation out of my budget suite, and this had been going on long enough that I was basically cracking up again, starting to have a lot of paranoid delusions. Things were getting uglier and uglier, and he'd been away from Angie for a while. And so we parted company again. This was a frequent occurrence in our relationship again because, dude, like you can't, there's just limitations in life. And when I would run with this dude, or when I would use, I would just stay up constantly, not eat and not sleep, and so it just puts a clock on a relationship. It just puts a clock on things, and there's just a limited amount of time that I could keep it together. And so all the guys come back over, they box up all the equipment into the Pelican cases, he leaves me a little something, and we part ways. Basically, I'm not going to bore you with, basically I went through using up what he had left me, coming down in this budget suite, making zero effort to get a job, zero effort to really do anything other than find sustenance, daily sustenance, still panhandling, working these different parking lots, stuff that I've talked about in the previous episode. And, and my dad has sort of had enough of it, and understandably so. So basically, he had extended. I feel like I was there for a couple of months. I feel like I was there through November, and November, December, give or take, something like that. The time frame is really irrelevant. But eventually, he stopped paying. He stopped re-upping. I think he was paying by the week, maybe. I don't recall. The important part is eventually he stopped paying for it. And so, I get this call, I get notified, like, you have to vacate the property that day. And so I had, just in case he's watching this, he and I have a difference of opinion on the next set of events. He remembers it one way. I remember it decidedly differently. I'm going to go with my memory because it's my memory. And when you have traumatic things happen to you, you tend to remember them very acutely. So my experience, this actually came up in my What It's Like Facing Jury Trial series. If you haven't seen that, I have an entire playlist in my, go to my channel page, and you can see another story that I told in like a 12-part series titled What It's Like Facing 12 years in prison. I think I actually had a jury trial. I was tried for 6 felonies in Washington State. That's another a very entertaining series to watch, so definitely check that out. One of the things that came out during my trial was that some of the jurors, for reasons that don't really matter for this video, had all had traumatic experiences, and 100% of them agreed that they had crystal clear memory of their traumatic experience. That tends to be true in life. Trauma has a funny way of burning itself into your memory. And so I had more, basically I was being kicked out of this budget suite, and I had nowhere to go. And I had more things than I could carry. So I called him and I was like, can you at least come and get some of my belongings and like hold on to them or something for me? And he agreed. So again, I'll never forget this day. I have thought about this day countless times in my life. He remembers it differently. But my memory is that it was absolutely pouring down rain and rather chilly. It was probably in the 50s and pouring, pissing rain. I was in my upstairs budget suite, and I saw him pull up outside the hotel, outside the suite. And so I started carrying down my bags. Basically, I think I had like 2 backpacks and 2 pieces of like rolling luggage, give or take. This is about the quantity of my belongings. And so I take these belongings down to his car, get in the passenger seat of the car, and you could kind of tell he didn't really know what to do with me, because I think his concern was, he was probably thinking like, holy shit, of all the days he's getting kicked out to the curb, it has to be pissing pouring rain. And I think that he was, obviously, I mean, at the end of the day, he's still my dad. It's got to be difficult, right? It's got to be difficult just telling your son, okay, best of luck, it's 55 degrees and pouring rain, have at it. And I think he was concerned that he was going to get trapped emotionally into either extending my stay further or letting me come back to his house or whatever. It seemed like he was unsure of what to do. He drove across this bridge. Like I told you, on the other side of the highway, there was a Taco Bell. And he pulled up in this Taco Bell parking lot, and I remember him sitting there. We were kind of sitting there for a moment in the car. And like I said, I mean, it's pouring rain. And my dad says to me, Michael, you've got to go. You just got to go. And you could tell he was just kind of shutting down. Like he'd made his decision. He was divorcing himself from it emotionally. He was committed to it. Doesn't mean it was the decision that he wanted to make, but he felt like he had to make it. And so he was committed to it, and he's just like, you got to go. And you could just feel the emotional disconnect. And I was like, what are you going to do? I'm not going to fucking beg and plead. And so I grabbed my backpack, and I had, there was one piece of rolling luggage that I decided to keep. And I got out of the car in the driving rain and carried all this into the Taco Bell and sat down at this table. I sat at a table at the very back of the restaurant. There was a window behind me, and the water's just pouring off of me, and I've got this backpack up on the table, and that's when, like, holy fuck, reality just comes crashing down on you. I can remember sitting at this table, and for the first time in my life, I had really nowhere to go. There was no plan. I didn't know what I was going to do. It's pouring fucking rain outside, and I've got no money and nowhere to go. I can't, again, this is 20 plus years ago. So forgive the time frame and me not being able to remember every single day of this time period. But if I remember correctly, I think again I reached out to my brother, if I remember correctly, he gave me a ride to my mom's house. My mom was living in Garland at the time, and my mom and I did not have a relationship. So a kind of Cliff's Notes version to why my mom and I did not have a relationship. My parents divorced when I was 12 years old. They had a terrible marriage. They fought all the time, basically every single night. It seemed like that's my memory. I'm sure it wasn't every night. I could tell some very serious stories about their marriage, which is probably getting ready to come out right now, honestly. So to paint you the picture of why my mother and I didn't have a relationship, my mother and my father did not get along at all. My father, my dad, they fought a lot. My dad was a kind of go to work, come home, watch fucking sports, totally disconnected from his wife kind of person. This is, in my estimation, true of him today. He's the least emotionally available person I have ever met in life. At face value, he seems to be one of the least compassionate people I've ever met in life. His attitude toward any problem I ever had was just kind of walk it off. Just go to school. I don't know what to tell you. Like my father and I had absolutely nothing approaching the relationship that I have with my boys. There was no communication. He put a roof over my head, and he put food on the table, and he was always around to play sports. He would spend as many hours as we could spend playing sports, he would do that. But outside of that, he taught me to play chess when I was young, and we played chess until I started beating him every game, and he quit playing chess with me. So we basically had no relationship, and so I was a mama's boy growing up. My brother and my dad had a strong relationship because my brother was the athlete in my family, and my dad and I did not have a relationship because I was the weirdo, nerdy chess player, fucking straight A honors student. He had every reason in the world to be as proud of me as humanly possible. Like I said in one of my other videos, every single fucking parent-teacher conference, it was just sing the praises of Michael. I wish I had a whole classroom. I was straight A student. I was in every honors class. I was invited to all of these special math and science programs outside of school. I was in I was like in a robot club. I was in every intellectual thing you could be involved in. I was involved in it, and this was just of no interest to my dad. He just wanted, all he ever wanted in life was I think 2 sons who were going to grow up and play Major League Baseball. And my chances of playing Major League Baseball were about fucking nil. It became very apparent at a very early age, and so I gravitated toward my mom. So while my brother was learning how to be a man and learning football and baseball and having the father-son experience, I was going to Hancock Fabrics with my mom, and she taught me how to sew. And so I learned to sew while my brother learned to understand sports and football. So you would think, clearly this is just the pathway to homosexuality, which is why I'm just telling you, in my estimation, when it comes to homosexuality, this is a nature, not a nurture thing. The conditions could not possibly have been more ripe in my family to nurture me into the homosexual lifestyle, and yet I could not possibly be more disinterested in that way of life at all. It just absolutely does not compute to me. I've been obsessed with girls since I was old enough to walk, it seems like. I had a girlfriend when I was in the 1st grade. Like, it's just always been girls for me. So, but I wanted a relationship with my father, but he clearly did not want one with me. And so what would happen was, if I stayed at home with my dad and my brother would kind of team up on me. So I have memories of being a kid where, like, I'd be sitting in the living room, like, trying to, like, be a part of the father-son get-together, and, like, they'd be watching football, and I didn't know anything about it, like, I can remember being, like, 9 or something, and I didn't understand the game because I didn't spend any time with my dad, and so I remember asking, like, I didn't understand what 1st and 10 meant. And I remember asking a question about it, and, like, my brother would laugh at me because I didn't know, and then my dad would kind of, like, roll his eyes, and I was kind of like the butt of their jokes. And so, being the older brother and being very headstrong like I am, I wasn't about to go for that shit. So when my brother would try to, like, make fun of me or punk me, or be otherwise be a dick to me, I would lash out, and of course I would be the one to get punished. So my dad would try to send me to my room for fucking timeout, and I felt like it was an unfair situation because my brother's fucking sitting here antagonizing me, and I'd be like, no, I'm not going. I didn't do anything wrong. Why do I have to go? I ask a fucking question about a game. He fucking pokes fun at me. I'm the bad guy here. I have to go to fucking timeout. My dad's like, just get in your room. You've got 5 minutes. I'm like, no, I'm not going. He's like, well, now you've got 10 minutes. I don't care. I'm not fucking going. Now you've got 20 minutes. So, like, one little fight, like one little incident like that in my house where my brother was given carte blanche to treat me however the fuck he wanted, and if I retaliated against it, I got in trouble. It would go from a 5-minute timeout to I'd be grounded for 2 fucking weeks. I spent half of my fucking years that my parents were together grounded, sitting in my room, like, counting baseball cards. Eventually I got a computer. Well, I guess this is down the road, but I was in my room all the fucking time. I spent all my time reading books and yeah, I mean, pretty much reading books. There was nothing else to do at the time. I didn't have a video game console in my room. I had books in my intellectual pursuits. And so I rapidly started to realize, like, anytime mom leaves, if I'm left alone with dad and my brother Brian, I was just going to end up getting grounded. That's all that was going to happen. I was going to get antagonized to the point that when I lashed out about it, I was going to be the one in trouble. And so I didn't want to be around this fucking dude. And so my mom would leave, and I would just be like, I would just go with her wherever the fuck she was going. And so on the weekends and shit, she would go to Hancock's Fabrics because she was always doing, like, my brother played baseball and my mom was team mom. And so she was always making all these shirts and clothes and doing these arts and crafts projects. My mom is like a fucking brilliant artist. Like, you just can't even fathom. She's like, she has squandered more artistic ability in this lifetime than most people could dream of having. She's just an incredibly talented artist. And so she was always working on all these projects. And so she, of course, endorsed my intellect, and she would take me to the library a lot. And and so I would just go wherever she went. And so I was never really around my dad. So when my parents fought at night, I would be laying in my bedroom listening to it, and I would imagine, like, I would be solving all of their problems for them. Like, my brain, I would be listening to what they were fighting about, and I would come out of my bedroom in the middle of the fucking night and get in the middle of their arguments and be like trying to say, well, Dad, if you just did this, and Mom, if you just did that. And before long, the three of us are screaming and cussing and yelling at each other. I had the foulest mouth on fucking planet Earth by the time I was 10 years old. I was regularly screaming fuck and shit in the middle of their fights. Sometimes, like, I would just come out of my room and I would just scream obscenities, just trying to get their attention. Because they would be so busy going at each other that I figured out, like, I could just basically get away with anything because they were just completely ignoring me so that they could have this fight about God knows what. I think more often than not, it was over me. My mom was mad that my dad didn't have a relationship with me, that he favored my brother, he didn't have a relationship with her, he was always, like, disappearing to go running, and I think she thought something shady was going on. And so I found myself constantly siding with my mom, and my dad, which damaged my relationship with my dad, like, even further. This came to a head when I was, I started off talking about homelessness, and I got down a fucking rabbit hole. Sorry, guys. This came to a head when I was about 11. The situation with my dad had gotten progressively worse, and it had progressed from the point where when he would try to discipline me in what I felt was an unfair way, he would try to send me to my room. I would refuse to go. I would literally refuse to go. And he would get up and he would shove me. He would just kind of push me down the hallway. We had this, like, scene. When I was a kid, it seemed like a long hallway. It probably wasn't that long. But there was 3 bedrooms off this hallway, and my bedroom was at the very end of the hall on the right. And he would just kind of shove me down the fucking hallway. And I fucking hated it. Like, I fucking hated that I wasn't strong enough to defend myself, and he could impose his will on me at any time. And it made me feel powerless. Because on the one hand, I'm being antagonized by my brother, I'm getting in trouble for fucking standing up for myself, then I'm refusing the unfair discipline, and then I'm having the discipline forced on me because I'm physically incapable of standing up to the person who's imposing this discipline. And I fucking hated it. And there was this one time he'd shoved me down the hall, and I had got to my bedroom door, and he kind of shoved me again, and I fell into the floor. He shoved me into the floor, and I got up, and I just, like, fucking had, like, a rage meltdown. And I started beating on his, like, abdomen, probably. I wasn't even probably tall enough to beat on his chest. I was, like, beating on his abdomen with my fists. And I remember him just standing there looking down at me like I was a fly, Like, it made me feel even more powerless. So it's like, here he is shoving me the fuck around. Here he is disciplining me unfairly. There's nothing I can do about it. And now I have physically attacked him, and it's like I'm powerless. I can't affect him. You know what I mean? I can't hurt him. And I want to hurt him. That's the truth. I couldn't hurt him, and I wanted to. I didn't like that he was hurting me emotionally, and it made me want to hurt him physically. And so one night, I started getting kind of sick, honestly. Like, I started having really, really disorganized thoughts, but see, the thing is that, like, I was like a fucking, it was like the beginning of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, see? Because at home, I was a total maniac. I would scream and cuss and yell. I would get in the middle of my parents' fights. I was like the typical oppositionally defiant child. Like, I absolutely could not be disciplined. Every single thing was a battle. But the second I stepped foot out of that car onto the school grounds, I was the model citizen. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Every single one of my teachers absolutely adored me. I was at the top of the class, and they thought everything was perfectly okay at home. Because when I was in public, I sold the lie that I came from a perfectly, it was like Beaver Cleaver family, you know, whatever it's called, the Cleaver family. Like I sold the lie that my parents were trying to maintain outwardly, while at night the fucking sky was falling all around me, and it started fucking me up. And so, as you can imagine, where you're living a lie all day at school, and my mom was coming to the school all the time because she was doing all these arts and crafts projects, and she would decorate the halls of our elementary school. She knew all the teachers. She would do fundraising events for the school, and they would do like a haunted house down one of the hallways. She would help with all these carnivals, so my mom was always at the school, and I was always with her. And so this relationship is totally fractured, but the whole time I'm living this insidious fucking lie, because everybody, my dad's the coach of the baseball team, my mom's the head of the fucking PTA, and everybody thinks that I come from this perfect fucking household and I'm this brilliant, bright student, and they couldn't possibly have been, nothing could have possibly been further from the fucking truth. And one day I was laying in bed in the middle of the night, and I cracked the fuck up. I got out of my bed, and I fucking crept into the kitchen, and I took a butcher knife out of the knife block. And this was like around Christmas time. And I took it back into my room, and I wrapped it in Christmas wrapping paper, and I fucking hid it in between books on my bookshelf. And that fucking knife, somehow, that I will never understand in life, was never missed for like the 2-week period that it was hidden inside of my fucking bookshelf. And one fucking day, one fucking weekend, one day, maybe it was the summer, I don't fucking remember, but I was at home, and my dad started his fucking bullshit again. And I fucking stood up to him, and he fucking did his thing. You know, we did our little thing. He shoved me down the fucking hallway. You know, I probably beat on his chest or screamed and yelled at him. And he threw me into the floor of my bedroom. And I sat in my bedroom floor, fucking crying like a baby. And then I remembered that fucking knife that I hid in that bookshelf. And I could feel rage for the first time in my life. For the first time in my life, I converted my pain and my fear and my sadness into anger. I let that shit fucking flow through every one of my veins like acid. I could feel the burning in my chest. I could feel the adrenaline flowing because I knew what I was getting ready to fucking do. And I stood up off that floor, and I went to that bookshelf, and I unwrapped that fucking knife. I stepped out into the hallway and walked halfway down the hallway holding what had to have been an 8-inch fucking butcher knife. And again, I'll never forget this day as long as I fucking live. My dad was sitting in his high back chair drinking a Coca-Cola out of a tall glass with ice. And I was standing in that hallway, and he was facing the TV. So like I'm over here, like where Sarah's sitting. And I said, "Come get me now, motherfucker." And I was holding that goddamn knife in my hand. And my dad looked up at his 11-year-old son holding an 8-inch fucking butcher knife and scoffed in my fucking face, picked up his glass, took a sip out of it, put it back down, and turned back around and looked at the television. There are no words to express how fucking horrible it feels when you have tried to take power in this fucking way, And this is the result that you get? This is the response? Even that wasn't enough to get his fucking attention. And right about that time, my mom comes around the fucking corner because she's heard the commotion. She sees her 11-year-old son standing there holding a fucking goddamn butcher knife, and she falls the fuck apart. So she, of course, comes to me. I probably broke down in fucking tears and wrest the knife from me. And off I went to fucking therapy. Because clearly I was all fucked up. Now imagine how the fuck that happened. See? So in that quote that I've mentioned before, posted on my fucking Instagram page, again, it's not really the Joker, but they're using the Joker's voice, and he says something to the effect of, don't apologize for the monster you've become because they didn't apologize for making you this way. See, the crazy thing was, all that time I spent around my mom didn't turn me into a homosexual. Learning to stitch and sew and do all of these stereotypically feminine things, work on artwork and projects, that shit didn't make me it didn't change my sexual persuasion. But the abuse either made me into the fucking monster that I have become today, or it awoke something that was deep down inside, simmering, just waiting to be fucking called upon. And so ever since that day, that is always what I have done with my emotions. It's why you see these trend rages and these trend rants. I do not feel the emotions fear or sadness or guilt or loneliness or any of these I don't allow myself to feel those things for any length of time. I will have temporary moments of sadness, depression, all of the typical, what I call negative emotions. See, I don't view anger as a negative emotion. I view anger as the most powerful emotion on earth, because sadness and fear and loneliness and guilt, those things crush you. Those things bring you low. They make you weak. Anger and rage make you strong. They make you powerful. They make you impenetrable. They make you a force to be fucking reckoned with. And so every time I feel these negative emotions inside me, I convert them into anger. And it is the only emotion that I allow myself to feel for any length of time. It wasn't until this marriage to my current wife where I began to learn how to let someone love me. Because in the house that I grew up in, seeking out someone's love was tantamount to self-destruction. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable enough to be needy of the people around you. Allowing yourself to trust the people who were tasked with your care, with my care. All that did was cause my just constant anguish and suffering. It was always a negative for me. Eventually it always went bad. And we haven't even gotten yet to why I didn't have a relationship with my mother at all for like a decade. So as you can imagine, this is a breaking point in a marriage. When you have a child who has basically, I don't even know what this charge would be. There's not a whole lot of people, honestly, who know this story. I did not intend to tell this story. I intended to talk about how I landed on the street and got massively sidetracked down memory lane, because I think that all of these things are relevant. And because I don't like to have skeletons in my fucking closet, and because what I think I'm actually recording here, without really knowing it, are my fucking memoirs. I think that's what this actually really is. So if you guys are willing to continue to listen, then I'm going to continue on this very public fucking platform to clean all of the fucking skeletons out of my goddamn closet. We've been working through this piece by piece, and maybe by the time I am done, there won't be a single goddamn thing left about me that all the world doesn't know. So, I went to therapy, which was a very, very exciting experience, and I kind of honestly feel a bit ripped off. I didn't really get credit for how brilliant my first therapy session went, and I didn't realize how brilliant it was until I saw the movie Good Will Hunting. And in one of the scenes in Good Will Hunting, where Matt Damon's character is forced to go to therapy against his will, he sits in a therapy session with Robin Williams, and for the entire hour, he refuses to speak. And when I saw that movie, I was like, what the fuck? That was me. So my mother, of course, is the one that recommended that I go to therapy. My dad, I don't think he really gave a fuck one. I'm not entirely certain my dad is a human being. Really, honestly. This is why I think that a lot of the people, this is the other reason why I tell you guys that I kind of feel like I'm the only player character here and everybody else is a fucking bot. It's because the people that I grew up with didn't seem to possess normal human emotions or the capacity to interact with other human beings, at least in the way that I view as normal. And so my mother was the one that insisted upon the therapy. And I remember, I'll never forget my first therapy session. It was a really small little room, and I had been allowed to bring my magazine. I had a subscription to, I think it was called Space, actually. I think it was Space Magazine, or maybe it was Astronomy. I can't remember. I have to look and see if there was a Space Magazine back then. But it was a magazine about space. I basically spent the vast majority, when I talk about being stuck in my room, I spent the vast majority of my time studying the stars. When I was in the 3rd grade, I wrote a 16-page paper on the cosmos, all about black holes and quasars and pulsars and the solar system, the asteroid belt, and I basically, for as long as I could remember, I have wanted to get the fuck off this rock. While my friends, I think, and my best friend at the time, while he was praying to Jesus that Jesus would make his life better, I was praying that the aliens would come and take me the fuck away from my family. That's what I used to dream about. I just wanted more than anything in the world for there to be something out there other than this. And I spent the vast majority of my time looking for it. Looking for any signs of intelligent life. There is a program called SETI, which stands for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And I just thought that it should have been called Search for Intelligence. Because there sure as fuck isn't any of it to be found on this rock. So if there was anything that even remotely resembled intelligence on this fucking rock, our world would not be in the sad state of fucking affairs that it is. So, unfortunately, we have yet to find actual intelligence. Maybe I should be lucky enough to live long enough for a truly intelligent race to come and visit us, although I suspect that if such a thing exists, they took one look at us and said, next, we're going somewhere the fuck else. So, I sat in this therapy session with this woman who spent the better part of an hour trying to get me to talk to her. And I refused. I sat there and for 1 hour, I ignored every single one of her questions and I patiently read my Space magazine, although I was having a very hard time reading it because it takes a hell of a lot of energy to ignore a person who's sitting straight across from you when you're 11 years old and give her the cold shoulder for an hour straight. She made considerable effort to get me to talk. And so so that's how the first session came and went. I can remember my parents talking to this woman after the fact, and for whatever reason, she didn't quit, and kind of like in the movie, honestly, she invited me back for a second session. She's probably thinking, this is great, I'm getting paid, and just watch this kid fucking read magazines. That's cool with me. But see, she's pretty good. She's good. And the second time that I came to therapy, she had the stage set for me. I wasn't prepared for it. I came walking in, and I had my magazine, and I was content to fuck this lady off for an hour, out of my oppositional defiance. And she had on this desk this little box, and she set the box down on the floor, and it looked like kind of like a little labyrinth is what it looked like. It was a wooden box, and it had like a little, I don't know, I guess it was maybe open on the top, and there was some kind of like little ball in it, and I think it was like something like a puff ball or something, because she had this thing that looked like an earwax bulb, and she said, "Hey, would you like to play a game?" And it was kind of like trying to give her the cold shoulder. And she showed me that, I can't remember exactly the details, but there was some gimmick to it. You had to try to figure out how to navigate this little ball through this maze. Well, I'm fucking star student in the fucking class. You know what I mean? You're not gonna put a game down in front of me without me trying to fucking conquer it. So I did. So I sat down, and I start working at this like little logic puzzle, and she fucking got me. See, she broke through my fucking defenses. And so while I'm playing with this little puzzle, and I let my guard down, she starts kind of like maybe giving some little coaching advice or something, or asking me like little questions like, so why did you try that? Why did you do? And so I start talking, because I'm talking about the game. But it was like uncorking a fucking, he's taking the cork out of something. And once I started talking, I couldn't stop. It's like this fucking camera. All of a sudden, this shit just comes pouring out of me. And so over the course of the next several sessions, I fucking let loose on this woman. I told her every fucked up thing that had been going on in my house since I was a kid. I told her the stories about my parents fighting all fucking night, and how I'd learned to sleep with my radio on, because to try to drown out their fighting, I would turn my radio up real loud, and every night I would fall asleep to music, because the only way I could sleep in my house was I couldn't stand to listen to the fighting, and so I would listen to the radio. And I can still remember, I could vividly remember songs that I used to sing out loud on top of the radio, trying to drown out the fucking noise of their bullshit. Because this had gotten to the point where I had been trying to go out and solve their relationship problems. And even at the age of 11, I'd already figured out they were fucking hopeless. It wasn't even worth my time anymore. And one of the songs was Billy Joel. It wasn't Piano Man. It's We Didn't Start the Fire. When Billy Joel, We Didn't Start the Fire came on the radio, man, I went off in my bedroom trying to drown these motherfuckers out. Well, the whole time I was singing We Didn't Start the Fire, my goddamn little brother was hiding under the bed with the fucking dog. So my parents are out there screaming and yelling. My brother's under his bed with the dog, and I'm screaming the lyrics to Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire, or We Built This City, or name your fucking late 80s, early 90s tune. I fucking know every goddamn lyric, because I was up all night screaming that shit out loud, trying to fucking drown out their bullshit. So after several sessions of me unloading all of my bullshit onto this therapist, the therapist really quickly starts to figure out, this kid is not all fucked up. This kid is being fucked up by the environment that he's in. And so what ended up happening is they sent me to therapy like the shit was gonna land on me, and it fucking blew up in their fucking faces. And now the therapist is coming to them Like, y'all got a fucking problem. Y'all need to get some fucking help. This is a sick fucking situation these kids are growing up in. And you're fucking this kid up. This kid is fucked up. And so now, my parents are getting divorced. And so this is a really pivotal fucking moment in every child's life, because what is the thing that every fucking therapist and every school counselor and grandparent always tells the children when their parents are getting divorced? It's not your fault. Because every kid, right, somehow kind of wants to take some of the blame. And what everybody tells the child to pacify them when their entire world is being torn apart, because when you're a child, your parents are like gods to you. They are the highest thing in your world. They craft your reality. They frame your reality for you. And so when your parents get divorced, it rips your entire world apart. It destroys your trust in authority. There's a lot of fucking negative side effects from this. And one of the ways that kids can be helped to cope with this is by being constantly reminded, this is not your fault. But in my world, my parents' divorce was totally my fault. My parents got divorced because I went to therapy and told all and hung out all their fucking dirty laundry, and the therapist attacked them, and that fucked their relationship up even worse. And so one day my mom comes to me. I was in my bedroom with my rabbit. I had a pet rabbit for a little period of time, and she said, what would you think about me and your dad getting a divorce? And I said, yes, do it. Get me the fuck away from this fucking man. Let's do it. And so she started the process of getting, trying to get a job and start trying to put the pieces together to eventually leave this guy. And so see, in my house, the divorce was my fault. And so when everybody kept trying to tell me it wasn't, I knew that it was. And I didn't get any sense of peace or comfort. And in all honesty, I took fucking pride in it. I said, fuck you. This shit is my fault. I did this and I'm fucking glad. Because fuck that motherfucker. And back then, my favorite movie in the entire fucking world was Terminator. I love the fucking Terminator. Because you know how Terminator comes to John Connor, and John Connor doesn't have a dad. And the Terminator becomes his father figure. And John Connor has to teach the Terminator what a tear is, because the Terminator doesn't have any feelings. He's strong, and he's big, and he's powerful, and he has no fucking feelings. He has no weaknesses. And that's all I wanted to be in life, was big, like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Terminator, and have no fucking feelings. And I'm big as fuck today, and the Trenbolone gives me damn near no fucking feelings. As always, thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one.